Hey, you darling little cutie idiot. Just a sweet little reminder to please check out our new subreddit, r/Mr. Ripper. If you want to submit your story to be read with my buttery little baritone, that's the spot where we are likeliest to find it. Dungeon Masters of Reddit. What is the most surprising thing your players have done in a game? Part 2. The party had to fight a powerful Marrow that had a talisman they needed. Instead of fighting him, they tricked him into marrying a baboon that they polymorphed into a beautiful mermaid, getting the talisman in exchange. It was so absurd that I had to go along with it. I was a newish DM at the time, playing Hot DQ. Players are in the swamp on their way to the castle. In my description, I say there is nasty swamp gas emitting from the bubbles within the water. They proceed to fill their bag of holding with it and use it as an air balloon to slowly float over it to avoid encounters. I allowed it because it was creative and hilarious. One player says they want to huff the swamp gas. What? His player huffs it to lower the balloon, and I decide to have some fun with the 10,000 magical side effects table. He ends up summoning a buttload of quippers, piranhas, into the water below them. Another player tries and his blood turns to acid but functions normally. He jumps off the rope and dives, so the quippers bit him and they all died. It was a great session and the only time my players have ever really been creative with the cards I deal them. Edit. Yes, I now know the Bag of Holding's properties, but this happened maybe a month into me ever playing. I've been our group's forever DM. Edit 2. Today I learned swamp gas is farts. This was far from the most surprising, but it was the most recent. They'd driven a brother duo of dwarves from town, really Duergar in disguise. Then they decided that instead of following up on my elaborate plans for an Underdark conspiracy campaign, that they would instead fight the city council over the dwarf brothers' abandoned forge, so that they could work an elaborate real estate scheme. I'm trying to figure out which Underdark race would make the best realtors in an attempt to get the campaign back on track. We cell-gamesed ourselves out of our DM's attempt to kill us all off. Wandered into, I want to say Asmodeus, one of the chaotic evil deities, someone's castle at about level 4. One of our party was running chaotic evil, and so was trying to get us all killed. The rest of us were some combination of lawful, good, and neutral. We were wandering through the house trying to find something when we accidentally stumble into Asmodeus himself. Our chaotic evil friend had met with him previously to try to hand us over to him to kill. So we're trying not to die, and one of our party, the mage, decides to try the old Goku trick.
No, see? We're really weak right now, so if you let us go and train and come back stronger, it'll be much more fun for you. It'll take more than just a look to kill us.
DM tells him to roll persuasion with disadvantage. Natural 20 on the first roll. Natural 20 on the second roll. We walked out alive, left the chaotic evil idiot there to die, and never went back. In one of my campaigns, we had a knight who relied on mounted combat to be effective. He told me after creating his character that he had a contingency plan should his horse die, and all the details. His character came with a buff and mute armorer named Patsy, and a little squire, whose name as far as anyone knew was Squire. I was hesitant to add so many characters, but since one was mute, I allowed it. Eventually, his horse is killed, and he turns a side-eye to me and goes,
I activate the contingency plan.
All the other players are so confused and dying laughing as he begins to execute his backup. He pulls a backpack harness out of one of his packs and straps it onto Patsy's back, then climbs in and grabs his lance and yells, "Yeah, Patsy!" He practically piggybacks the rest of the game in order to get his mounted combat bonus. One of the other players asked, "Is Patsy okay with this?" And he responded, "Patsy has long dreamed of this day." I am always amazed at the creativity of my crew. I had one guy whose character went by the name of Clancy Margus. His character was a basket weaver who ran away from his family to pursue his passion of making baskets out of wild plants. He was an elf that really had a way with nature. Well, starting out, his only true weapon were darts. He was trapped high up on a tree with a pack of wolf dog-like beasts at the bottom waiting for him to come down. While he broke branches of the tree, used the fibrous material to make a thin rope, and attached it to the darts. He then used a nearly perfect roll to launch that dart deep within the trunk of the tree next to us. Incredibly clever. Then he had a poor strength roll, fell off while climbing across the rope, and injured himself, falling onto the wolf/man beasts. I made my party start the game as commoners, in a non-heroic kind of game. The party, as you would expect, struggled at first, but had a general idea of what they wanted to do. And as they leveled up, you could see how their actions affected their class choices. Inevitably, We ended up with our fighters, priest, rogue, and so on. All but one of the group. Let's call him Jeff. Jeff spent 12 levels on expert, another non-hero class, and was, in comparison to the others, pretty useless. Jeff's character was bullied and berated for the entire game. Fast forward a while, and over the course of this game that has taken the better part of half a year, Jeff has been reading up on trebuchets. My boy, I'm so proud of my boy. And has become something of a real-life master of knowledge on the subject. His character had been dumping points in knowledges and engineering, and been reading books on trebuchets too. He wanted to be some kind of siege expert. Well, Jeff's character got sick of the group, and found a cunning way to load the group into his magical trebuchet whilst they slept and he took watch. Jeff's character fired the party out of trebuchet, thus ending the game as none of them had any kind of slow fall abilities and took a healthy amount of damage that they didn't survive. After defeating a harpy during the climb up a mountain, they wanted to loot it. I just told them they took a feather from it. It was just a trophy. The next encounter was a troll inside the cave they entered, though. The guy with the feather asked me if the troll was ticklish. I said sure. He told me he pulled out the feather and tickled him. While distracted, they slipped past it. The genius was so good, I had to let them proceed. I was DMing for my mom and grandma. They got hungry and butchered and ate a hobgoblin. I was so shocked, I had no idea how to react. I guess technically it's not cannibalism for an elf and a half-elf to eat a hobgoblin. I had a player wish for himself to be turned into a stone block. He'd been sent back in time somehow. I forget exactly how, as this game happened in 1996, and was trying to find a way back. So he figured he could stand where the party was when he got sent back in time. Wish himself to be turned into a stone block with a message chiseled on it, reading, "Wish for me to be turned into character name." His logic was they'd find the stone block waiting on their approach, and his character would use his wish to change him back before being sent back in time. So I did that, and I said to him, "Why didn't you just wish to go back to your own time?" He said,
"Oh, I didn't think of that."
And he was duly laughed at by everyone. My players tend to do some ridiculous stuff to the point where I could probably fill an entire thread with their shenanigans, as you should, but the first and best would probably have to be weaponizing butter. Oh, this is gonna be a roller coaster ride, kiddos. During the first session, the party found themselves in a small town library, trying to figure out what's going on. Among other things, they found a book with 1001 uses for butter, just as a throwaway detail. They check it out as well, and I think nothing of it. After the session, I ask for downtime actions, and the party's mad scientist comes to me and says, "I want to make explosive butter." I have him roll for it, and he aces it. He then posts a picture to our Facebook group along the lines of chicken plus stick of butter equals chicken-shaped blast shadow plus cooked chicken. The rest of the group runs with this, and it leads to an ever-increasing spiral of butter-related weaponry and paraphernalia. Buying a cow to secure their own supply and hiding it in their basement, adding some herbs and spices to the mix, and creating the basting grenade. After building a BPG, a different player took a skill specialty in food-based weaponry. This, of course, deserved an equally weird response in kind. See, this kind of abuse of butter didn't go unnoticed, namely by the butter deity herself, Paula Deen. She waged a campaign of harassment against the party for infringing on her domain, eventually culminating in summoning a skyscraper-sized sentient corn on the cob to crush them. In the lore of this world, butter is now a highly controlled substance, and the French have become the most formidable military power in the world. Even when telling non-butter related stories from this game, I can only ever refer to it as Butter Game. TLDR, players weaponize butter, antagonize Paula Deen, propel French to military supremacy. That's the best story of the month, my darlings. I loved that one the most that I have heard. Sorry, not sorry. I feel no shame about dubbing that one King of May. Anyway, or Queen of May, or Monarch of May. Yes, keeping with the alliteration theme. One of the early plot hooks was an excommunicated priest having a vision of an angry bear guarding a cave. They got into a debate reminiscent of the swallow coconut debate in Monty Python about whether a bear can properly be said to be angry. They eventually decided to look for the bear, not to investigate the vision, but to see what an angry bear looks like. They turned the game into SimCity. PCs are thrown into a dungeon for witchcraft, get broken out by an agent of the king who knows they are innocent, wants them to take down the guy who's going around accusing anyone he considers impure of witchcraft because he's cleaning up the kingdom. He has the support of a lot of nobles who are bigoted fucks. That's why the throne can't act too openly against him, and decides to employ the player characters. If they kill him, everyone will just assume it's out of revenge. King's agent basically gives them directions to where they can find this guy, but they get caught up on the detail of some of the nobles being in with him, and decide they want more details. They ask for an example. I threw out the name Lord Hobbs at random, and now the quest is suddenly investigate Lord Hobbs for corruption while completely ignoring the guy who is actually responsible for all of this. So now I need to make a map of Hobbs' mansion and grounds for them to infiltrate, stat out guards and such, and invent something to happen. Turns out Hobbs is being blackmailed into compliance and isn't that bad a guy. He tries to hire the PCs himself to go after Witchfinder douchebag so that I can get things back on rails. And then, just to tie off this plot cul-de-sac, one of the Witchfinder's agents kills him. PCs finally go after the guy they were supposed to go after, save the day, and as a reward, I have the king give them Hobbs' title and mansion, so I can reuse the nice map I made as their base, and all seems well. Of course, now they are technically the rulers of a small town. Immediately, this becomes their primary focus, ignoring any and all other plot hooks. They want to improve the town, which I now also need to map in detail. Invest money, collect taxes, pass ordinances, improve trade routes, etc. Adventuring is now just a way to acquire funds and defeat threats to the town, which starts growing at an alarming rate. Gaming sessions are now 70% discussions on trade, revenue allocation, and fiddling with the town map. Not a DM myself, but a pretty avid player with a couple of good friends. The situation was that my friends and I were escorting a princess to the show Empire, and on the way there happened to be a town that was being attacked. The next events were turning out to be brutal, with even the princess's specially trained bodyguard dying in the midst of it. While trying to come up with a plan, we were made aware of a legend of a nearby dragon that could potentially help. I, being a sorcerer, decided that I would probably have the easiest time convincing this dragon to help. When I went to the cave, the dragon was asleep. Waking it from its sleep wasn't really the greatest thing to do, but the city needed help. After waking him up, I was immediately threatened with death unless a tribute could be given. I didn't have a ton of gold with me, so I thought I was just going to die on the spot. However, I remembered that through past endeavors, I had about 5 pounds of Holy Leaf, Pathfinder version of weed. So I proceed to hype this dragon about the Holy Leaf and roll a 5-pound blunt for him with a cloak I was wearing. To my surprise, the DM allowed this and it worked. I hooked the dragon on weed and I rode him back to save the city. While this is happening, my DM and the rest of the party are all losing their shit because I just fed a noble dragon a blunt the size of a small baby in order to save the city. Hello, you succulent fucking peach. Yes, you're goddamn right. Thanks for attuning your beautiful looking balls to this wonderful little rabbit hole we call home. We're so happy to have you here with us as we dive deep into the depths of Dungeons & Dragons, depravity, debauchery, and dick jokes. If this is your first visit, please say hello in the comments. If you have been here for a hot minute, tell us a tongue twister. Don't forget to check out our new subreddit, r/Mr. Ripper, if you got a story burning a hole in your big peepee. If you feel like arguing over porn or finding an online tabletop gaming crew, feel free to drop into our Discord server and turn off the notifications immediately because it's honestly kind of a shit show, but like the kind that you can't look away from. And to be fair, I think I like it that way, so I'm about that life. But anyways, we've got a D&D stream on deck soon. We are building our characters. Stay tuned for the announcements. And if you are interested in helping out the channel and helping out our friends who love Dungeons and Dragons, please go and check out Adventurers Coffee Company. They got this wonderful dark roast they call Dungeons and Dark Roast. I'm about to make a video teaching y'all cuties how to make cold brew with it, so stay tuned for that as well. Probably get that done this week. If you haven't told someone you love them today, it's probably a good time to do that before you go to sleep, because, you put it out there, you get it back. That's how it works, kiddos. Anyway, thanks again for tuning in. I love you, and we will see you next time.